Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Lizzy Co. and The Artist's Way, featuring The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. When last we spoke, we were going through the introduction, and I was sharing a little bit about my background in the AA system and how helpful that has been for me. So, as we pick up again, we are going to talk about the basic tools of this program before we get into week one proper. So, let's dig right into the basic tools. There are two pivotal tools in creative recovery: the morning pages and the artist date. A lasting creative awakening requires the consistent use of both. I like to introduce them both immediately and at sufficient length to answer most of your questions. This chapter explains these tools carefully and in depth. Please read it with special care and begin the immediate use of both tools. Ooh, it's such dramatic wording. I do feel like I'm embarking on a journey. The morning pages. In order to retrieve your creativity, you need to find it. I ask you to do this by an apparently pointless process I call the morning pages. You will do the pages daily through all the weeks of the course and I hope much longer. I have been doing them for a decade now. I have students who have worked with them nearly that long and who would no more abandon them than breathing. Ginny, a writer-producer, credits the morning pages with inspiration for her recent screenplays and clarity in planning her network specials. I'm superstitious about them by now, she says. When I was editing my last special, I would get up at 5 a.m. to get them done before I went into work. What are morning pages? Put simply, morning pages are 3 pages of longhand writing, strictly stream of consciousness. Oh God, another morning. I have nothing to say. I need to wash the curtains. Did I get my laundry yesterday? Blah, blah, blah. They might also, more ingloriously, be called brain drain, since that is one of their main functions. There is no wrong way to do morning pages. These daily morning meanderings are not meant to be art, or even writing. I stress that point to reassure the non-writers working with this book. Writing is simply one of the tools. Pages are meant to be simply the act of moving the hand across the page and writing down whatever comes to mind. Nothing is too petty, too silly, too stupid, or too weird to be included. I really think that's true. You know, you have to have a lot of stuff to sort through to find the best stuff. And if you don't even give yourself a chance to sort through things, then you certainly won't find anything good. The morning pages are not supposed to sound smart, although sometimes they might. Most times they won't, and nobody will ever know except you. Nobody is allowed to read your morning pages except you. And you shouldn't even read them yourself for the first 8 weeks or so. Just write 3 pages and stick them into an envelope. Or write 3 pages in a spiral notebook and don't leaf back through. Just write 3 pages. And write 3 more pages the next day. September 30, 1991. Over the weekend, for Domenica's biology project, she and I went bug hunting on the Rio Grande and Pot Creek. We collected water crawlies and butterflies. I made a crimson homemade butterfly net that was quite functional, although dragonflies eluded us to our dismay. We did not catch the tarantula strolling down the dirt road near our house. We just enjoyed spotting it. Although occasionally colorful, the morning pages are often negative, frequently fragmented, often self-pitying, repetitive, stilted, or babyish, angry, or bland, even silly sounding. Good. October 2nd, 1991. I am up and have had a headache and have taken aspirin and feel a little better, although still shaky. I may have that flu after all. I am getting to the bottom of a lot of unpacking and still no teapot from Laura, whom I am sorely missing. What a heartbreak. These examples of morning pages sound a lot like my childhood journals, and I'm wondering if that's the point of this exercise, is to get back into that childlike state. All that angry, whiny, petty stuff that you write down in the morning stands between you and your creativity. Worrying about the job, the laundry, the funny knock in the car, the weird look in your lover's eye, this stuff eddies through our subconscious and muddies our days. Get it on the page. The morning pages are the primary tool of creative recovery. As blocked artists, we tend to criticize ourselves mercilessly. Even if we look like functioning artists to the world, we feel we never do enough and what we do isn't right. We are victims of our own internalized perfectionist, a nasty internal and eternal critic, the censor, who resides in our left brain and keeps up a constant stream of subversive remarks that are often disguised as the truth. The censor says wonderful things like, "You call that writing? What a joke. You can't even punctuate. If you haven't done it by now, you never will. You can't even spell. What makes you think you can be creative?" And on and on. Make this a rule. Always remember that your censor's negative opinions are not the truth. This takes practice. By spilling out of bed and straight onto the page every morning, you learn to evade the censor. Because there is no wrong way to write the morning pages, the censor's opinion doesn't count. Let your censor rattle on, and it will. Just keep your hand moving across the page. Write down the censor's thoughts if you want to. Note how it loves to aim for your creative jugular. Make no mistake, the censor is out to get you. It's a cunning foe. Every time you get smarter, so does it. So you wrote one good play? The censor tells you that's all there is. So you drew your first sketch? The censor says, it's not Picasso. Think of your censor as a cartoon serpent, slithering around your creative Eden, hissing vile things to keep you off guard. If a serpent doesn't appeal to you, you might want to find a good cartoon image of your censor, maybe the shark from Jaws, and put an X through it. Post it where you tend to write or on the inside cover of your notebook. Just making the censor into the nasty, clever little character that it is begins to pry loose some of its power over you and your creativity. More than one student has tacked up an unflattering picture of the parent responsible for the censor's installation in his or her psyche and called that his or her censor. Ooh, I feel that. Woo! We will talk about that more later. The point is to stop taking the censor as the voice of reason and learn to hear it as the blocking device that it is. Morning pages will help you to do this. Morning pages are non-negotiable. Never skip or skimp on morning pages. Your mood doesn't matter. The rotten thing your censor says doesn't matter. We have this idea that we need to be in the mood to write. We don't. Morning pages will teach you that your mood doesn't really matter. Some of the best creative work gets done on the days when you feel that everything you're doing is just plain junk. The morning pages will teach you to stop judging and just let yourself write. So what if you're tired, crabby, distracted, stressed? Your artist is a child and it needs to be fed. Morning pages feed your artist child, so write your morning pages. 3 pages of whatever crosses your mind. That's all there is to it. If you can't think of anything to write, then write, "I can't think of anything to write." Do this until you have filled 3 pages. Do anything until you have filled 3 pages. When people ask, why do we write morning pages? I joke, to get to the other side. They think I am kidding, but I'm not. Morning pages do get us to the other side of our fear, of our negativity, of our moods. Above all, they get us beyond our censor. Beyond the reach of the censor's babble, we find our own quiet center, the place where we hear the still, small voice that is at once our creator's and our own. A word is in order here about logic brain and artist brain. Logic brain is our brain of choice in the Western Hemisphere. It is the categorical brain. It thinks in a neat, linear fashion. As a rule, logic brain perceives the world according to known categories. A horse is a certain combination of animal parts that make up a horse. A fall forest is viewed as a series of colors that add up to fall forest. It looks at a fall forest and notes red, orange, yellow, green, gold. Logic brain was and is our survival brain. It works on known principles. Anything unknown is perceived as wrong and possibly dangerous. Logic brain likes things to be neat little soldiers marching in a straight line. Logic brain is the brain we usually listen to, especially when we are telling ourselves to be sensible. Logic brain is our censor, our second and third and fourth thoughts. Faced with an original sentence, phrase, paint, squiggle, it says, "What the hell is that? That's not right." Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. I reckoned with this really hard when I was in my 20s. I went to conservatory instead of college to study flute, and the lifestyle there is that you're never really quite right. There's always something that can be improved. You're never ever finished. And so I spent a lot of time listening to that logic brain that's described here. So I'm curious about the difference between the logic brain and the artist brain that's about to be described next. Artist brain is our inventor, our child, our very own personal absent-minded professor. Artist brain says, "Hey, that is so neat." It puts odd things together. Boat equals wave and walker. It likes calling a speeding GTO a wild animal. The black howling wolf pulled into the drive-in. Artist brain is our creative, holistic brain. It thinks in patterns and shadings. It sees a fall forest and thinks, "Wow, leaf bouquet, pretty, gold gilt shimmery earthskin king's carpet." Artist brain is associative and freewheeling. It makes new connections, yoking together images to invoke meaning, like the Norse myths calling a boat wave horse. In Star Wars, the name Skywalker is a lovely artist brain flash. Why all this logic brain, artist brain talk? Because the morning pages teach logic brain to stand aside and let artist brain play. Yeah, I think what she's describing here is the shift from fight or flight to rest and digest. And that's something that I've worked on a lot in my own mental health journey, is understanding when fight or flight is necessary, which thankfully in my life is almost never, and when a state of rest and digest is more appropriate, or as to use the terms here, when artist brain is safe to engage with. The sensor is part of our leftover survival brain. Yep, there we go. It was the part in charge of deciding whether it was safe for us to leave the forest and go out into the meadow. Our sensor scans our creative meadow for any dangerous beasties. Any original thought can look pretty dangerous to our sensor. The only sentences, paintings, sculptures, or photographs it likes are ones that it has seen many times before. Safe sentences, safe paintings, not exploratory blurts, squiggles, or jottings. Listen to your sensor and it will tell you that everything original is wrong, dangerous, or rotten. Who wouldn't be blocked if every time you tiptoed into the open, somebody, your sensor, made fun of you? The morning pages will teach you to stop listening to that ridicule. They will allow you to detach from your negative sensor. In real life, I had to go no contact with my family to get those negative sensors out of my life. So if anyone can relate to that, you have my empathy and my sympathies. It may be useful for you to think of the morning pages as meditation. It may not be the practice of meditation, you are accustomed to. You may, in fact, not be accustomed to meditating at all. The pages may not seem spiritual or even meditative, more like negative and materialistic, actually, but they are a valid form of meditation that gives us insight and helps us effect change in our lives. Let's take a look at what we stand to gain by meditating. There are many ways of thinking about meditation. Scientists speak of it in terms of brain hemispheres and shunting techniques. We move from logic brain to artist brain and from fast to slow, shallow to deep. Management consultants, in pursuit of corporate physical health, have learned to think of meditation primarily as a stress management technique. Spiritual seekers choose to view the process as a gateway to God. Artists and creativity mavens approve of it as a conduit for higher creative insights. It's almost like it's just like a human behavior and we can kind of just use it for whatever we want. Who knows? All of these notions are true as far as they go. They do not go far enough. Yes, we will alter our brain hemisphere, lower our stress, discover an inner contact with a creative source, and have many creative insights. Yes, for any one of these reasons, the pursuit is a worthy one. Even taken in combination, however, they are still intellectual constructs for what is primarily an experience of wholeness, rightness, and power. Humanity. We meditate to discover our own identity, our right place in the scheme of the universe. Through meditation, we acquire and eventually acknowledge our connection to an inner power source that has the ability to transform our outer world. In other words, meditation gives us not only the light of insight, but also the power for expansive change. Insight in and of itself is an intellectual comfort. Power in and of itself is a blind force that can destroy as easily as build. It is only when we consciously learn to link power and light that we begin to feel our rightful identities as creative beings. I see this in practice in my day job. I am a manager of people, and I have noticed that when I come in to the day and I decide that we are going to have a good day and that everything is going to go well, we all manage to find the things that are going well. And we manage to find all the things to be excited about. But if I come in my own mood for whatever reason, and I find myself caught up in what's going poorly or what I wish was going differently, I find that everyone around me will kind of fall into that same pattern as well. Where was I? The morning pages allow us to forge this link, the link between power and light, that is. They provide us with a spiritual ham radio set to contact the creator within. That's how you can tell this book was written in 1992. For this reason, the morning pages are a spiritual practice. It is impossible to write morning pages for any extended period of time without coming into contact with an unexpected inner power. Challenge accepted. Although I used them for many years before I realized this, the pages are a pathway to a strong and clear sense of self. They are a trail that we follow into our own interior, where we meet both our own creativity and our creator. Morning pages map our own interior. Without them, our dreams may remain terra incognita. I know mine did. Using them, the light of insight is coupled with the power for expansive change. It is very difficult to complain about a situation morning after morning, month after month, without being moved to constructive action. The pages lead us out of despair and into undreamed of solutions. This was really the key to my finding a happy life, was looking for all of those things that I continuously complained about and continuously bumped my head up against, and looked for different ways to do those things and allowed myself the possibility that that one painful way of doing things maybe wasn't the only way. The first time I did morning pages, I was living in Taos, New Mexico. I had gone there to sort myself out into what I didn't know. For the third time in a row, I'd had a film scuttled due to studio politics. Such disasters are routine to screenwriters, but to me they felt like miscarriages. Cumulatively, they were disastrous. I wanted to give the movies up. Movies had broken my heart. I didn't want any more brain children to meet untimely deaths. I'd gone to New Mexico to mend my heart and see what else, if anything, I might want to do. In recovery, we call that doing a geographic. It's where you assume that when you travel somewhere new, your problems won't follow you. Let's see if she mentions that. Living in a small adobe house that looked north to Taos Mountain, I began a practice of writing morning pages. Nobody told me to do them. I had never heard of anybody doing them. I just got the insistent inner sense that I should do them, and so I did. I sat at a wooden table looking north to Taos Mountain, and I wrote. The morning pages were my pastime, something to do instead of staring at the mountain all the time. The mountain, a humpbacked marvel, different in every weather, raised more questions than I did. Wrapped in clouds one day, dark and wet the next, that mountain dominated my view and my morning pages as well. What did it or anything mean? I asked page after page, morning after morning. No answer. And then, one wet morning, a character named Johnny came strolling into my pages. Without planning to, I was writing a novel. The morning pages had shown me a way. Anyone who faithfully writes morning pages will be led to a connection with a source of wisdom within. When I am stuck with a painful situation or problem that I don't think I know how to handle, I will go to the pages and ask for guidance. To do this, I write LJ as a shorthand for me, little Julie, and then I ask my question. LJ, what should I tell them about this inner wisdom? Then I listen for the reply and write that down too. Answer. You should tell them everyone has a direct dial to God. No one needs to go through an operator. Tell them to try this technique with a problem of their own. They will. Sometimes, as above, the answer may seem flippant or too simple. I have come to believe that seem is the operative word. Very often, when I act on the advice I have been given, it is exactly right. Far more right than something more complicated would have been. And so, for the record, I want to say, pages are my way of meditating. I do them because they work. A final assurance. The morning pages will work for painters, for sculptors, for poets, for actors, for lawyers, for housewives, for anyone who wants to try anything creative. Don't think they are a tool for writers only. Hooey. These pages are not intended for writers only. Lawyers who use them swear they make them more effective in court. Dancers claim their balance improves, and not just emotionally. If anything, writers who have a regrettable desire to write morning pages instead of just do them may have the hardest time seeing their impact. I'm so curious what she means by writers here, because poets seem to be separated. Does she mean fiction writers? Interesting. What they're likely to see is that their other writing seems to suddenly be far more free and expansive and somehow easy to do. In short, no matter what your reservation or your occupation, morning pages will function for you. Timothy, a buttoned-down, buttoned-lipped curmudgeon millionaire, began writing morning pages with a skeptic's scorn. He didn't want to do them without some proof that they would work. The damn pages had no label, no Dun and Bradstreet rating. They just sounded silly, and Timothy hated silly. Timothy was, in street parlance, a serious player. His poker face was so straight it looked more like a fireplace poker than a mere card-sharp's defense. Practiced for years in the corporate boardroom, Timothy's invincible facade was as dark, shiny, and expensive as mahogany. No emotions scratched the surface of this man's calm. He was a one-man monument to the masculine mystique. Oh, all right, Timothy agreed to the pages, but only because he had paid good money to be told to do them. Isn't it interesting how often we need to pay someone to give us the advice that we should just take? Within 3 weeks, straight-laced, pinstriped Timothy became a morning pages advocate. The results of his work with them convinced him. He started, heaven forbid, to have a little creative fun. I bought guitar strings for this old guitar I had lying around, he reported one week. And then I rewired my stereo. I bought some wonderful Italian recordings. Although he hesitated to acknowledge it, even to himself, Timothy's writer's block was melting. Up at dawn, Gregorian chant on the stereo, he was writing freely. Not everyone undertakes the morning pages with such obvious antagonism. Phyllis, a leggy racehorse socialite who for years had hidden her brains behind her beauty and her life behind her man's, tried the morning pages with a great deal of surface cheer and an inner conviction they would never work for her. It had been 10 years since she had allowed herself to write anything other than letters and bread and butter lists. About a month into morning pages, seemingly out of nowhere, Phyllis got her first poem. In the 3 years she has used pages since, she has written poems, speeches, radio shows, and a non-fiction book. Anton, grumpy but graceful in his use of the pages, accomplished unblocking as an actor. Laura, talented but blocked as a writer, painter, and musician, found that the morning pages moved her to her piano, typewriter, and paint supplies. While you may undertake this course with an agenda as to what you want unblocked, the tools may free creative areas you have long ignored or even been blind to. Ingeborg, using the pages to unblock her creative writer, moved from being one of Germany's top music critics to composing for the first time in 20 years. She was stunned and made several ecstatic transatlantic calls to share her good news. I feel like my agenda as far as what I would like unblocked from doing morning pages would be just my ability to see myself as a member of the community who can receive and not just give. I feel like I've fallen into that typical middle-aged woman trap of being surrounded by people who appreciate me for the care I can give, but I have fewer people around me who are able to meet me as an equal or support me when I need support. So I'm hoping that perhaps the morning pages will show me some patterns there that can be improved. Often, the students most resistant to morning pages come to love them the best. In fact, hating the morning pages is a very good sign. Loving them is a good sign too if you keep writing even when you suddenly don't. A neutral attitude is the third position, but it's really just a defensive strategy that may mask boredom. Boredom is just what's the use in disguise? Oh, it's so true. It's so true. It's hard to be bored if you see the usefulness in what you're doing. And what's the use is fear, and fear means you are secretly in despair. So put your fears on the page. Put anything on the page. Put 3 pages of it on the page. The artist date. The other basic tool of the artist's way may strike you as a non-tool, a diversion. You may see clearly how morning pages could work, yet find yourself highly dubious about something called an artist date. I assure you, artist dates work too. Think of this combination of tools in terms of a radio receiver and transmitter. It is a 2-step, 2-directional process, out and then in. Doing your morning pages, you are sending, notifying yourself and the universe of your dreams, dissatisfactions, hopes. Doing your artist date, you are receiving, opening yourself to insight, inspiration, guidance. But what exactly is an artist date? An artist date is a block of time, perhaps 2 hours weekly, especially set aside and committed to nurturing your creative consciousness, your inner artist. In its most primary form, the artist date is an excursion, a play date that you pre plan and defend against all interlopers. You do not take anyone on this artist date but you and your inner artist, aka your creative child. That means no lovers, friends, spouses, children, no taggers on of any stripe. If you think this sounds stupid or that you will never be able to afford the time, identify that reaction as resistance. You cannot afford not to find time for artist dates. Do you spend quality time with each other? Troubled couples are often asked by their therapist. Parents of disturbed children are asked the same thing. Well, what do you mean quality time is the usual Weasley response. We spend a lot of time together. Yes, but is it quality time? Do you ever have any fun together, the therapist may press? Fun? Who ever heard of having fun in a rotten relationship like this one? Do you go on dates? Just to talk? Just to listen to each other? Dates? But we're married, too busy, too broke, too scared, the therapist may interrupt. Hey, don't sugarcoat it. It is frightening to spend quality time with a child or lover, and our artist can be seen as both to us. A weekly artist date is remarkably threatening and remarkably productive. A date with my artist? Yes. Your artist needs to be taken out, pampered, and listened to. There are as many ways to evade this commitment as there are days of your life. I'm too broke is the favored one, although no one said the date needed to involve elaborate expenses. Yep, that was absolutely the excuse that was running through my mind as I was reading this was, I don't have the money for that. Wow, okay. Fully called out. Okay. Your artist is a child. Time with a parent matters more than money spent. A visit to a great junk store, a solo trip to the beach, an old movie scene alone together, a visit to an aquarium or an art gallery. These cost time, not money. Remember, it is the time commitment that is sacred. In looking for a parallel, think of the child of divorce who gets to see a beloved parent only on weekends. During most of the week, your artist is in the custody of a stern, workaday adult. What that child wants is attention, not expensive outings. What that child does not want is to share the precious parent with someone like the new significant other. Spending time in solitude with your artist child is essential to self-nurturing. A long country walk, a solitary expedition to the beach for a sunrise or sunset, a sortie out to a strange church to hear gospel music, to an ethnic neighborhood to taste foreign sights and sounds. Your artist might enjoy any of these, or your artist might like bowling. Commit yourself to a weekly artist date, and then watch your killjoy side try to wriggle out of it. Watch how this sacred time gets easily encroached upon. Watch how the sacred time suddenly includes a third party. Learn to guard against these invasions. Above all, learn to listen to what your artist child has to say on and about these joint expeditions. For example, "Oh, I hate this serious stuff," your artist may exclaim if you persist in taking it only to grown-up places that are culturally edifying and good for it. Listen to that. It is telling you that your art needs more playful inflow. A little fun can go a long way toward making your work feel more like play. I'm pretty guilty of that. Pretty guilty of trying hard to make sure that everything I take in is something that's good for me, something that I'm going to learn from, something that if I repeat it to others, I'm going to uplift the conversation and not bring it down. But sometimes you just got to enjoy something fun. We forget that the The imagination at play is at the heart of all good work, and increasing our capacity for good creative work is what this book is about. You are likely to find yourself avoiding your artist dates. Recognize this resistance as a fear of intimacy, self-intimacy. Often, in troubled relationships, we settle into an avoidance pattern with our significant others. Definitely did that with my own family. Yep, that's relatable. We don't want to hear what they are thinking because it just might hurt. So we avoid them, knowing that once they get the chance, our significant others will probably blurt out something we do not want to hear. It is possible they will want an answer we do not have and can't give them. It is equally possible we might do the same to them, and that then the two of us will stare at each other in astonishment, saying, "But I never knew you felt like that." Anybody else grow up in that kind of pattern? I certainly did. It is probable that these self-disclosures, frightening though they are, will lead to the building of a real relationship, one in which the participants are free to be who they are and to become what they wish. This possibility is what makes the risks of self-disclosure and true intimacy profitable. In order to have a real relationship with our creativity, we must take the time and care to cultivate it. Our creativity will use this time to confront us, to confide in us, to bond with us, and to plan. The morning pages acquaint us with what we think and with what we think we need. We identify problem areas and concerns. We complain, enumerate, identify, isolate, fret. This is step 1, analogous to prayer. In the course of the release engendered by our artist state, step 2, we begin to hear solutions. Perhaps equally important, we begin to fund the creative reserves we will draw on in fulfilling our artistry. Filling the well, stocking the pond. Art is an image-using system. In order to create, we draw from our inner well. This inner well, an artistic reservoir, is ideally like a well-stocked trout pond. We've got big fish, little fish, fat fish, skinny fish, an abundance of artistic fish to fry. As artists, we must realize that we have to maintain this artistic ecosystem. If we don't give some attention to upkeep, our well is apt to become depleted, stagnant, or blocked. Any extended period or piece of work draws heavily on our artistic well. Overtapping the well, like overfishing the pond, leaves us with diminished resources. We fish in vain for the images we require. Our work dries up and we wonder why, just when it was going so well. The truth is that work can dry up because it is going so well. As artists, we must learn to be self-nourishing. We must become alert enough to consciously replenish our creative resources as we draw on them, to restock the trout pond, so to speak. I call this process filling the well. I feel like this also applies in my life as a manager. I find that I am so much more easily able to fulfill people's requests and meet people's needs when my own needs are met. It's just not that heavy of a lift. But when I don't take good care of myself, all of a sudden it just seems like such a burden to take care of other people. As artists, we must learn to be self-nourishing. Oops, read that part already. Moving on. Filling the well involves the active pursuit of images to refresh our artistic reservoirs. Art is born in attention. Its midwife is detail. Art may seem to spring from pain, but perhaps that is because pain serves to focus our attention onto details. For instance, the excruciatingly beautiful curve of a lost lover's neck. Art may seem to involve broad strokes, grand schemes, great plans, but it is the attention to detail that stays with us. The singular image is what haunts us and becomes art. Even in the midst of pain, this singular image brings delight. The artist who tells you different is lying. In order to function in the language of art, we must learn to live in it comfortably. The language of art is image, symbol. It is a wordless language even when our very art is to chase it with words. The artist's language is a sensual one, a language of felt experience. When we work at our art, we dip into the well of our experience and scoop out images. Because we do this, we need to learn how to put images back. How do we fill the well? We feed it images. Art is an artist brain pursuit. The artist brain is our image brain, home and haven to our best creative impulses. The artist brain cannot be reached or triggered effectively by words alone. The artist brain is the sensory brain. Sight and sound, smell and taste, touch, these are the elements of magic, and magic is the elemental stuff of art. In filling the well, think magic, think delight, think fun. Do not think duty. Do not do what you should do. Spiritual sit-ups like reading a dull but recommended critical text. Do what intrigues you. Explore what interests you. Think mystery, not mastery. A mystery draws us in, leads us on, lures us. A duty may numb us out, turn us off, tune us out. In filling the well, follow your sense of the mysterious, not your sense of what you should know more about. A mystery can be very simple. If I drive this road, not my usual road, what will I see? Changing a known route throws us into the now. We become refocused on the visible, visual world. Sight leads to insight. A mystery can be simpler even than that. If I light this stick of incense, what will I feel? Scent is an often overlooked pathway to powerful associations and healing. The scent of Christmas at any time of year, or the scent of fresh bread or homemade soup, can nourish the hungry artist within. Some sounds lull us, others stimulate us. 10 minutes of listening to a great piece of music can be a very effective meditation. 5 minutes of barefoot dancing to drum music can send our artist into its play-fray day refreshed. Filling the well needn't be all novelty. Cooking can fill the well. When we chop and pare vegetables, we do so with our thoughts as well. Remember, art is an artist brain pursuit. This brain is reached through rhythm, through rhyme, not reason. Scraping a carrot, peeling an apple, these actions are quite literally food for thought. I can vouch for this. I spent time as a baker, and I got a lot of good ideas for poems when I was doing the very repetitive work of making bagels. You're standing there for a long time doing the same motion over and over again, and it really is very meditative, and it does loosen up the brain to interesting thoughts. Any regular repetitive action primes the well. Writers have heard many woeful tales of the Bronte sisters and poor Jane Austen, forced to hide their stories under their needlework. A little experiment with some mending can cast a whole new light on these activities. Needlework, by definition regular and repetitive, both soothes and stimulates the artist within. Whole plots can be stitched up while we sew. As artists, we can very literally reap what we sow. Why do I get my best ideas in the shower? An exasperated Einstein is said to have remarked. Brain research now tells us that this is because showering is an artist brain activity. Showering, swimming, scrubbing, shaving, steering a car, so many S-like yes words. All of these are regular, repetitive activities that may tip us over from our logic brain into our more creative artist brain. Solutions to sticky, creative problems may bubble up through the dishwater, emerge on the freeway just as we are executing a tricky merge. Learn which of these works best for you and use it. Many artists have found it useful to keep a notepad or tape recorder next to them as they drive. Steven Spielberg claims that his very best ideas have come to him as he was driving the freeways. This is no accident. Negotiating the flow of traffic, he was an artist immersed in an oncoming, ever-altering flow of images. Images trigger the artist brain. Images fill the well. Our focused attention is critical to filling the well. We need to encounter our life experiences, not ignore them. Many of us read compulsively to screen our awareness. On a crowded, interesting train, we train our attention on a newspaper, losing the sights and sounds around us, all images for the well. And now she has included this page with a contract on it. I'm going to read the contract. I, Lizzy Coe, understand that I am undertaking an intensive, guided encounter with my own creativity. I commit myself to the 12-week duration of the course. I, Lizzy Coe, commit to weekly reading, daily morning pages, a weekly artist date, and the fulfillment of each week's tasks. I, Lizzy Coe, further understand that this course will raise issues and emotions for me to deal with. I, Lizzy Coe, commit myself to excellent self-care, adequate sleep, diet, exercise, and pampering for the duration of the course. Artist's block is a very literal expression. Blocks must be acknowledged and dislodged. Filling the well is the surest way to do this. Art is the imagination at play in the field of time. Let yourself play. Creativity contract. When I am teaching the artist's way, I require students to make a contract with themselves, committing to the work of the course, which is what we just did. Can you give yourself that gift? Say yes by means of some small ceremony. Buy a nice notebook for your pages. Hire your babysitter ahead of time for the weekly artist dates. Read the contract on the preceding page. Amend it if you like, then sign and date it. Come back to it when you need encouragement to go on. So, my thoughts about all of this. I'm so excited to get started with this because I think it's going to be really good for me as both a writer and a manager of people. Because in both of those lines of work, I have to be my most regulated self, and I have to be someone who's not surprised by what's going on inside of myself, because there are so many external surprises that come, especially in my day job. I get a lot of surprises, and I have to deal with a lot of feelings from others. So if I find myself surprised by my own feelings, it makes for a challenging day. So that being said, we're going to leave it off for today. Next week, we are going to dive into the actual program itself, week 1, which is titled Recovering a Sense of Safety. So I'll see you next time for week 1.